I think we've probably all heard about fertility goddesses at this point. They're the ones people turn to for a little help in the love, family, and harvest departments. While some watch over things like childbirth and human fertility, others are all about crops, seasons, and keeping nature's cycle going. But today, we're diving into a fertility goddess from a much darker, weirder corner of fiction, the Cthulhu Mythos. This whole mythos was cooked up by horror legend H.P. Lovecraft and has since grown into a collection of otherworldly, nightmarish beings. One of them is the star of this video, Shub-niggurath. So, is she really the creepiest fertility god out there? Let's get into it and see what we find. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, though, we do have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let us begin. Overview. Shub-niggurath comes straight from Lovecraft's eerie world of cosmic horror. Nicknamed the Black Goat of the Woods with 1,000 young, she's one of the outer gods, the big, ancient entities lurking in the background of the mythos. She first popped up in Lovecraft's updated version of The Last Test back in 1928 and has since made her mark not just in his stories, but in tales by other horror writers like Robert Bloch, August Derleth, and Ramsey Campbell. Shub-niggurath is often summoned through unsettling rituals, and her name alone hints at how bizarre and terrifying her presence is in those eldritch tales. Background. As mentioned previously, Shub-niggurath is an outer god in the Cthulhu pantheon. She's considered a rather perverse fertility deity and appears as a hellish cloud-like entity. She is depicted as an enormous mass who extrudes black tentacles, has multiple mouths that drip slime, and stands on short, writhing goat legs. She regularly creates and produces small creatures that either get reconsumed into her own noxious form or escape her clutches to live as a monster. She's said to have 2 husbands, or is it 2 mates? We're not too sure, but we could think of it as either. One could be the not-to-be-named one, an entity we'll cover later, and the other is Yog-Sothoth. Yog-Sothoth is the guardian of the gate. Also known as the All-Seeing, he's the father of Nug and Yeb, a pair of twins sired by the fertility goddess who have earned the title of the Twin Blasphemies. Every god and goddess always has a high priest or priestess. That position would go to Tyog of the Kana. Tyog is from ancient Mu, a city that is considered as lost as the city of Atlantis and believed wholeheartedly that the Black Goat was a benevolent deity. If not that far, she believed the goddess would side with humanity against the consistent tyranny and horror that was the existence and actions of Gatanatoa. Who was Gatanatoa, you ask? Oh, no one really, just a hellish demon that was brought to Earth by aliens from Yuggoth. Before we forget, Yuggoth is a planet that's located on the very edge of our solar system. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. August Derleth classified Shub-niggurath as a great old one. He also stated that she was an earth elemental, one in the same category as Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos, and was in an opposing position to fire elementals like Cthulhu and his cronies. Character profile. Shub-niggurath was one of the most extensively worshipped goddesses of all the deities in the Cthulhu Mythos. Her worshippers and cultists included the Hyperboreans, the Movians, the people of Sarnath, and many other druidic and barbaric cultists. Her popularity was also high with those of non-human origins. This included the Migo, the very aliens that were native to Yuggoth and summoned Gatanatoa, and the Doles and Nug-Sothoth. These 2 races were from Yadith, a quintuple star system that is located in a completely different galaxy, one that's millions of light years away from Earth. The Nug-Sothoth were an inhuman race of powerful wizards and brilliant scientists, some of them being the brains behind light-wave envelopes, machines that function similarly to the Bifrost in the way that they could take you anywhere and everywhere through space and time. They were the sole inhabitants of Yadith until the Doles showed up. The Doles were deathworms, to put it simply, and they had invaded the planet and, in turn, the Nug-Sothoth as well. Then we finally have the Kinyanians. They are Shub-niggurath's closest devotees and the tribe of people from which Tyog comes. A little extra tidbit of information about the beloved fertility goddess comes from Zamacona. Zamacona was a Spanish adventurer who found Kinyan in 1541. Well, stumbled upon is more the correct word. Anyways, when she found the Kinyanians and learned about Shub-niggurath, he thought of her as a sophisticated version of Astarte. Astarte was the Mesopotamian goddess of fertility, along with love, sex, hunting, and war. If there's anything we've learned from the Greek mythos, it's don't compare love goddesses with another person, or being, or entity, or anything really. We're actually kind of lucky that Zamacona is long dead by now, or never existed, I suppose, whichever one works. Anyways, Shub-niggurath can be summoned to any woodlands at any time, preferably during the new moon. This is, of course, with the proper occult paraphernalia. But where does she stay? Where does she come from? That isn't known. Some accounts say she stays in the court of Azathoth, the supreme deity of chaos and creation. Other accounts claim her place of residence is possibly under Yadith, where she is served and waited on by the Doles. Some even claim it's in another dimension altogether. My favorite theory is that she decided to settle on Earth and build a city. The city was called Harag Kolath, and it was in a cavern under southern Arabia, and it shared a border with Yadith, allowing the Doles to serve her from the other side of said border. Family tree! Now, see, this is where things get a little tricky. This is also because we're not too clear about it either, but we'll do our best to explain it to our understanding. The Cthulhu Mythos is an ever-changing and evolving beast, constantly being added to by a variety of different artists and authors, but we feel we've presented the following information to the best of our ability. That said, let us know in the comments if you think we're mistaken about anything that follows. As stated earlier, Shub-niggurath is the wife of both Yog-Sothoth and the not-to-be-named one. From Yog-Sothoth, she sired the twin blasphemies. The not-to-be-named one, also known as him who is not to be named, in fact, does have a name. Surprise! That name is Haster. Haster is known to be the god of shepherds and sired 3 children with the fertility goddess, Ithaquah, and the twins Zat and Loigor. Ithaquah, like his mother, was considered one of the Great Old Ones. He was a wind elemental, unlike his mother, and earned the title the God of the Cold and Winds, pretty much the combined roles of Boreas and Aeolus. Zar and Loigor were also identified with the titles the Twin Obscenity and the Star Treader. The twins were both worshipped by the Cho-Cho people from Sung. Loigor was even known to be the primary progenitor of an entire species derived from his name, the Loigor species. When it comes to the matter of her 1,000 young, however, the true progenitor or biological father in civilian terms is unclear. This is because while the larger probability of the father is Haster, there are smaller, if not slight chances that it could also be the product of matings with Yog-Sothoth. Another possible father would ironically be herself, as she is capable of reproducing through fission. I mean, she is a fertility goddess, so it's entirely feasible that she's capable of doing the entire process by herself. Now, this is where things get slightly confusing. Again, correct us if we're wrong, but we can introduce another character into the picture here. This character is Yig, also known as the Father of Serpents. It's said that he sired Beatus, the serpent-headed god of forgetfulness, from Shub-niggurath. This is also an unconfirmed theory, as his mother could also be Mappo no Ryujin, the mother of all snakes, that lives near Japan, or Ubo-Sathla, Azathoth's twin sister and the one with the name Demiurge. What's a demiurge, you might ask? A demiurge is a minor deity responsible for creation and the opposite of creation. Some folks also believe Yig could be her son. In Out of the Eons, co-written by H.P. Lovecraft and Hazel Heald, the main character mentions having the power of Shub-niggurath and her sons on their side. The story had already brought up Nug, Yeb, and Yig as possible allies of hers, which is where this theory comes from. So yeah, it leaves rooms for questions. We'd love to hear your take on it. Of course, we can't conclude her family tree without mentioning the part of her family that made it to half of her official title, her Dark Young. The Dark Young are depicted as horrifying pitch-black monstrosities made up of ropey tentacles. Their visage reminds one of trees, black, moldy, unhealthy trees that reek of evil and cruelty and all that is, well, evil. They stand on multiple pairs of stumpy legs and have a mass of tentacles growing from their trunks exactly where their heads are supposed to be. They also have puckered maws with green goo that drips through their open jaws and covers their flanks, completing the tree-like visage that they go for. When groups of them are in one place, the area smells like an open grave. The only 2 places that really smell like an open grave are cemeteries and actual open graves. That place could become your grave if you aren't careful, so we say you keep this in mind when traveling through the woods. The Dark Young normally reside deep in the woodlands. If you find multiple groups of Dark Young in the wooded area that you live in, that means you were in the most active area of the cult of Shub-niggurath. They can be easily confused with Shoggoths, so please keep your eyes peeled. They are usually called upon to preside cult-related ceremonies. They can be summoned via the Book of Yaibon, the Grimoire of the Wizard Yaibon, and a blood sacrifice. However, there are specific conditions. The summoning must only happen deep in the woodlands during the darkest time of the moon. For those of you who didn't understand, the darkest time of the moon refers to the final waning crescent of the moon before it disappears into a new moon phase. Depending on the ecliptic latitude of the moon at that moment, the range of the dark moon can be any time from 1.5 days to 3.5 days. The blood sacrifice must also happen on a stone altar. Dark Young act as proxies for Shub-niggurath in many ways. This includes accepting sacrifices in her honor, overseeing worship made by the cultists, devouring non-cultists and non-worshippers, and serving as their mother's missionaries to spread her faith across the world. Another extra tidbit about the scariest fertility goddess? Her milk. Her milk mutates anyone who consumes it and turns them into fierce creatures. How fierce, you ask? We don't know. Why don't you try some and tell us? Activities of the goddess. Every deity has their favorites. Every deity has a group of people they prefer the most over anyone else. For Shub-niggurath, and excuse my pronunciation, these were the Gofen Hupdag Shub-niggurath, also known as the Blessed of Shub-niggurath. This group of worshippers were once devotees who were human and favored by the goddess. When one was deemed worthy enough to join the Gofen Hupdag, a special ceremony was conducted in their honor and celebration where Shub-niggurath swallows them using her womb and rebirths them as a satyr-like being, granting them immortality as a result. Black Goat. Half of the moniker that she earned. But why is she called the Black Goat? Well, that could be because of her appearance. However, there is also speculation that the Black Goat is a separate entity, a figurehead that allows others to worship her through the Black Goat. Some accounts also claim that the Black Goat is a possible personification of Pan, the god of nature and satyrs. Others claim it could represent Satan, as satyrs symbolized a man with an excessive sexual appetite. Either way, both sides believe that this was a possible incarnation that the goddess assumed to copulate with and possibly even impregnate her worshippers. Magna Mater was also another avatar of Shub-niggurath who was worshipped since before the Romans. She was associated with Cybele, another goddess who was considered the mother of nature, Attis, and Ishtar, also known as Astarte, the same fertility goddess we talked about earlier. Other media. Shub-niggurath was a goddess who made her debut in other media as well. She popped up in the spin-off novels of the well-famed and beloved series Doctor Who, the slowly but surely rising anime That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, and in the 6-volume manga series The Elder Sister Like One. She was really popular in said other media, but not in the way you might think. In Doctor Who, the spin-off novels bring her up as the entity that sired the Nestine consciousness. This was the being that animated the Autons, robots that shared a similar likeness and visage to mannequins found in shops and display cases that functioned as their soldiers. In That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Shub-niggurath doesn't show up as a deity or even as a person at all, but rather as a character skill. This was a skill developed by Uriel, Rimuru's powerhouse and other consciousness that utilizes, creates, and develops skills. Through Shub-niggurath, Rimuru could grant skills to his subordinates through soul corridors opened and formed through the skill. In The Elder Sister Like One, the goddess strikes a deal with a little boy, Yu, and takes the form of a 20-year-old young woman. She goes by the name Chiyo and signs a contract with Yu to become his older sister. Marvelous verdict! In my opinion, as a human being with a significant desire to live, I find this goddess absolutely terrifying. At the same time, some of the things she's done really give the current patriarchy a big middle finger, and that we kind of adore. What do you think? Is she the most horrifying fertility goddess you've ever heard of? No? If you've heard scarier, let us know in the comments, and maybe we'll make a video out of them next. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.